When you think of communication, your thoughts probably jump to someone like me. You think of a handsome, smart, funny, humble. Oh, what I mean to say is your thoughts probably jump to someone doing something like I'm doing right now. A person giving a speech in front of a committee, or someone just talking to a friend. When you think of miscommunication, you might imagine something like this. There was an older woman and her son who were watching the news together. The newscaster got up and he said, "On the international news, I'm sad to say, but 6 Brazilian men died today in a freak accident." The mother starts to weep. The son says, "Mom, it's okay. Things like this happen." And she says, "So many men lost. How much is a Brazilian?" But often, miscommunication is much more than the words we say, who we say it to, or even our tone of voice. There are things that we see in others and that others see in us that can be distracting from the actual intended meaning. We'll be exploring how this plays out with people from different areas, different genders, and also different eras. The first major area of miscommunication is the way we handle ourselves. No, I'm not talking about if you're clumsy or unathletic. I'm more referring to our different senses of personal space. There's a saying you might have heard. New Englanders are jealous of their money, their land, but most of all, their personal space. You guys haven't heard that saying? Guess this is your first time watching my speech. Well, whether I made it up or not, it still is true. I really don't understand why some people stand wicked close when they're talking to me. I know it's cold in New England, but linking your arm hairs with mine isn't gonna help. All it's gonna do is make me super uncomfortable. Anyways, if you want to warm up, just stand in the corner of the room. It's generally 90 degrees. Oh. But honestly, some people, the reason why some people stand way too close is because they're super dumb. I mean, maybe a little unaware of your personal space requirements. And this could be totally by accident. You and the person you're talking to are just giving as much personal space as you each see fit. But it's not just miscommunication that can be caused in where we grew up. There are also large differences between guys and girls, especially in the realm of humor. For example, there was a constant flow of insults between my brothers and I. "Hey, fatso!" This is how most days begin for me. Waking up with a nice burn on my 18-year-old brother. If you've ever seen my brother, you'll know that he's not at all by any means, in any way, by any standard, fat. He broke 100 pounds, what was it, last year? No, 2 years ago. If he turns sideways, poof, he disappears. Calling him fat is so false, it's comical. So why do I do it? Actually, why do I do it? Oh, it's because this is how guys communicate and show their affection and friendship. Now, I'm not saying this ever happened, but say I said the very same thing to my sister or a girl at church. I might be surprised to find out they would not react in the same playful acceptance as my brother. But this is purely hypothetical. You understand. Just look at the different way guys and girls text. You probably already knew this, so see if you can just identify the genders of these texters. "Oh, I saw this puppy and it reminded me of you. Heart, heart, heart. Smile, smile, smile." Then the guys text, "Hey, idiot. I saw this pig and, let's just say, huge family resemblance." But the question is it okay? Yeah, why else would I do it? But honestly, a playful insult is fine in some situations and not at all acceptable in others. It is up to the teller of the joke to have an understanding and awareness to know when, but more importantly, when not to tell a joke that could be interpreted as an insult, instead of a teen male bonding experience. There is also a large area for unintentional miscommunication in the area of fashion and modesty. The problem with these areas is they were different 5 years ago and very, very different 50 years ago. This can lead to some simple misunderstandings. Perfect example, my grandma. Some things just seem to matter so much to her. Take off your hat. No elbows on the table. Group photo. None of those technological doohickeys. Things that seem totally irrelevant to us youngsters, but since my cousins and I are all nice and kind and respectable, we never, ever pull her leg. Never. Well, not all the time. Anyway, one Thanksgiving, during the obligatory group photo, we all turned and smiled for the camera. Grandma's widest of all. And it wasn't until after the photo she turned to see all her lovely, kind, respectable grandchildren wearing baseball caps with phones in hands and elbows on the table. Well, in this situation, this was an intentional misunderstanding. It often happens by accident. But ultimately, why does my grandma care so much about wearing a baseball cap? The thing is, her and older people in general have a different idea of what is fashionable and what is acceptable. And while this sometimes leads her to lecture me on what I wear, it often leads to some very interesting outfits on their part. One pastor was visiting an older woman in his community, and he asked her why she didn't try more and more fashionable clothes. She said, "As soon as I wake up, willpower, he helps me out of bed. Then I go see John. Then Charlie Horse comes along, and ooh, when he's here, he takes a lot of my time and attention. Ooh. Then arthritis shows up, and he stays the rest of the day. He doesn't like to stay in one place very long, so he takes me from joint to joint. When I'm out with him, I go flirt with Alzheimer's. After such a busy day, I'm really tired and glad to go to bed with my husband, Ben Gay. With all those men, why worry about fashion?" But all kidding aside, lack of fashion is because older people have a different set of priorities and values. And while part of this is because they grew up in a different time with different values, it also comes from the fact that they are a whole lot older and they realize there are some things that are more important than necessarily looking your best. The idea that they had different values when they grew up was very evident when my cousin was planning his wedding. As I found out when I was planning mine, planning a wedding is very stressful. You guys didn't know I was married? Well, neither does she. Just another little miscommunication. Anyway, my cousin and his bride had to decide how much money they wanted to spend, what to eat, what to wear, but hardest of all, how many people to invite. They decided they wanted a relatively large wedding, and my grandma spoke her mind about how weddings were supposed to be. She said proudly, "We had 5 people at our wedding, including the pastor." My grandpa added, "Yeah, we invited our friends." And they both came. A whole lot has changed since my grandparents were getting married. But our elders are wise, and we shouldn't let the differences caused by the generational gap ruin a great chance to learn, and from their perspective, to share. I think we could all benefit from a piece of advice from C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity. And while this quote specifically talks about communication between the old and young, it also applies to the other areas of miscommunication. He says, "I think that the old or old-fashioned should be very careful not to assume that the young or emancipated are corrupt whenever they are, by the old standards, improper. And in return, the young should not call their elders prudes or Puritans because they do not easily adopt the new standard." And here is his solution to the problem we've been exploring. He closes with, quote, "A real desire to believe all the good you can of others and make others as comfortable as you can will solve most problems." The essence of what he's saying is love. Listen, understand, respect. Don't assume that someone who's standing too close, using potty humor, or wearing something that's